Germany, that is not part of the armed forces history that we have. Nevertheless, it happened. So in 1973, there was the aviation weapons school, IFR training, and then night fighter training was here on that base. Later there was the German Aviation Test Center, and in 1945 they started working on the Messerschmitt in here, and in spring 1945 that all ended with a couple of bombs on the place, 1,800 tons of bombs, and we still cover some today, and find some today, and then we have stopped working somewhere, so it's not still cleaned, either history nor the bombs in itself. This is how the airfield looks today. This standard NATO runway, about 3 kilometers, 8,000 feet runway. The main part of the base is south of the base and a little part in the north. And the reason for that is because in the northern part was where the most bombing came. So in 1958 until 61, when they started building up the base again, they decided, okay, we go more to the south where less bombing founds in there. In 1961, the Fighter Wing 74 was officially commenced as the Fighter Wing 74 Jagdgeschwader, and we started out with flying the F-86K Sabre, bought from got them from the United States. Only 4 years later, we converted to the Starfighter, and after another 10 years, we came to the Phantom in 1974, an interims aircraft waiting on the Fighter 90, as it was called in earlier times, which obviously now is the Eurofighter, as you know. Because the Fighter 90 didn't show up at the time that we thought about, we had to extend the lifetime of the Phantom into the ICE version with a new radar and getting the AMRAAM onto the Phantom in 1992. And then finally, in July 2006, we had the first Eurofighters here on the base. We actually were the first operational fighter wing. We were not the first wing. The first wing was Fighter Wing 73 in the northern part, but they only have the school, the training. So we were the first operational fighting wing here in the south. And for 2 years, we flew the Phantom and the Eurofighter in parallel, which was kind of a big strain for technicians especially, but then finally in 2008 we were able to take over our main task, which is the QA. I come to that a little bit later. With the Eurofighter, and only a couple of days later the Phantom had its official flyout of this base in 2008. And the interims aircraft flew here for 34 years finally. So that's how our history goes. And yeah, that is one of the nicer, not all our aircraft look like this, obviously, but in 2013 we joined the Tiger Association and had this great aircraft painted there. We called it the Bronx Tiger, for obvious reason. And a couple of years later we had what we call the Ghost Tiger, another one of the more beautiful aircraft that we have. And so that was the Tiger story behind that for special wings.
Are either of those still around?
No. Unfortunately. We have still two actually colored aircraft. That is the 60-year Air Force aircraft, the blue and white one, that is still flying. I'm not quite sure. 3068 flying today. I'm not quite sure. I don't think so. But it's still in commission. It actually went already to Manching for the inspection and came back and was still colored. So it was great. And we have the this year Tiger. However, the this year Tiger only has a color scheme on the tail of the aircraft. Just a tiger face. Didn't have the money to paint the whole aircraft, or not the approval or whatever. For the organization, Fighter Wing 74 is led at the moment by Colonel Vacant, so we don't have a colonel at the moment leading the base. The old one is already gone, the new one is coming in by the end of the year. So at the moment we have the Deputy Wing Commander, which is Lieutenant Colonel Thomas Kulrich. And at the same time we're sitting here, we have a conference with all the mayors of the surrounding villages and towns about noise and noise abatement. And obviously he has to go there to please all those people and tell them we're not very loud. kind of. We'll try to do our best to prevent as much noise as we can. Actually, we do a lot of that. We're not flying during the main news hours of the day. We don't fly before 9 o'clock in the morning, in general. And we're not flying later than 2,300 hours a day. And don't fly during the noon time when everybody is eating between 12:30 and 1400. So we do a lot of stuff, and we try to not to overfly all the cities in the vicinity, and there are a lot. We are taking care of 28 towns and cities we are not overflying, which we would rather overfly for technical reasons, but we prevent this, and this is our only thing we can do. We can't make the Eurofighter less noisy than it is, although it's less noisy than the Phantom. However, nobody recognizes this. Okay, for the structure, the commander obviously has a big staff with the standards that is common for every wing: personnel, intel, ops, logistics, IT, standardization group, a flight surgeon, a flight safety officer. And especially this is a typical German thing. We try to standardize as much as we can, so everybody is doing the same thing at the same time without too much discussion going on. And there's one special thing here. We actually own a second airfield. The former airbase Lechfeld, where the tornadoes were based, the tornadoes went out, but we decided there's so few airfields, military airfields in southern Germany, where we needed to keep one as an alternate airfield or for exercise or whatever. So this is Lechfeld, and it is basically under our control, military. There's only 70 people down there taking care of maintenance, so there's no aircraft base there. But if we have to, we go there. And actually, we went there for 2 years in 2014 to 15 when we repaired the runway. So we closed down this base, went down there, operated from there, and came back here. But this is the main base. And then we have two big groups, what we call the flying group, where I'm the boss of, and the technical group, where Lieutenant-Colonel King is the boss of. And in there, I have my own staff, and then the two fighter squadrons, that's where the pilots are, where the action is, and the ATC squadron and the weather, and then the technical group, also with a small staff, and the maintenance and weapons squadron, logistic and transport squadron, and I call it the repair, and better open the English word, and the electronics squadron, and I'll tell you later what those guys are doing.
Excuse me?
Yes, of course.
The photo on the slide looks absolutely nothing like you. Is it a different person?
No, it's just a younger person without a beard.
Thank you very much.
Yeah, flying squadron, what does it do? It does do the flying business. We're doing training in the aircraft and in the simulator. This is not a German picture, obviously, and this is a British picture. It could be a Spanish picture as well. But we do emergency training in the simulator and a lot more, and I'll come to that a little bit later, because the simulators at this time or nowadays are much better than the older ones. And we're taking part of exercises and whatever we get to wherever I have to do to get training ready. Come to that. Then the ATC squadron, also under my control. This is basically where the radar and the tower controllers are sitting in, and controlling the ATC movements on the base, coordination with Munich. So this higher airspace belongs to Munich in here, in this area. And in former times, actually, the fire brigade was under my control. Nowadays, it is sourced out. It's still part of the forces, not the Air Force, but part of the forces. But I'm not the commander of them anymore. However, they are on our base, and we talk to them, and obviously working close together. For the technical group, obviously, maintenance weapons squadron, they do the refueling, checking the aircraft over, also do putting the ammunition inside the aircraft, and they also do the cross-servicing. If other aircraft are coming to our base, they are technically skilled to turn around F-16, F-15, or whatever is coming around in our area. This is basically the first line maintenance, the first thing you do when you come to the aircraft. And the repair and electronics squadron is basically the second line maintenance. That is where the things are done that are not done by industry. All the Eurofighter nations have a little bit different tasks on going on to repairing the aircraft. The Spains, for example, they do almost everything inside the military. The Germans and the Brits do a hybrid system. So we do first line maintenance and stuff like that in the wing. If there are bigger things, we get the aircraft over to Manching and have them repaired there. And the Italians, they put everything to industry. So every nation does a little bit different, depending on obviously money reasons and mentality, where you want to go with the aircraft, in what kind of scenarios and whatever. So I cannot tell you what is the best and the worst. That's the one we have. And so we do exchange of parts of the aircraft. We check over the engine. We do life support in here. But for the big inspections, at the moment it's a 200-hour inspection where the aircraft is completely, a 400-hour inspection where the aircraft is completely overhauled. And then we get the aircraft over to Manching. We did actually an experiment this year. We did this inspection on the base ourselves, just to train and prove that we can do it ourselves, because obviously in whatever kind of scenarios it's questionable, is all the industry is is able to go into wherever the scenario of the future is. So we wanted to check it out and see if we can do it better than industry, or industry can do it better, and try to learn from each other. Not who is the best, but who can make it the most efficient and learn from each other. And obviously logistic transport squadron, so guys that put everything together if we have to go somewhere, transport from A to B, and getting our food and stuff like that. So all in all, there's about 1,200 people here on the base for, at the moment, 40 pilots. And officially book-wise, we have 35 aircraft, however, they're not all on base. Part of them are on Manching, and part of them are on exercises, so they all turn around. I don't know what the actual number is today. It should be about 21 or 22 aircraft being at the base at the day today, so to speak. So a lot of people to work it, but if you look at other nations, it's pretty much the same number. I think we have a little bit more on the welfare and logistics side, maybe in Germany, but most nations, if you look in detail, have about the same people working. Interesting number: 12% of our soldiers are female. So we are quite a good number, at least in comparison to the rest of German armed forces.
And how many pilots are female?
In Neuburg, nobody. That's an all-male. No. In Germany, we have at the moment 2 female fighter pilots on Eurofighter, but as I said, not always. We had 3, 1 got out, and 2 remain at the moment. Okay, then the chain of command. Actually, we have always 2 heads on here. We have obviously the German chain of command. So above our Fighter Wing 74, there's the so-called Air Forces command, which sits in Cologne, and all the fighter wings are under them. The Air Force command, so Air Forces and Air Force, I don't know. The Air Force command sitting in Berlin and Gatow, actually, in southern part or western part of Berlin, and then obviously Military of Defense sitting in center of Berlin as the head of everything. And at the same time, we have part of our aircraft assigned directly to NATO, especially the QA. The QA is transfer of authority to NATO, so they're sitting down there on the base, and there are all Germans in there, but nevertheless, the main command is over NATO. So if they get their scramble, if they get alarmed and go out, it's actually the NATO that is pressing the button and sending them out. If they go out on a NATO task, they will be controlled by a command and reporting center, either one of the 2 remaining in Germany, and which is under control of the KIOP in Uden, the headquarters in Ramstein, and then in Mons, the standard NATO structure. Yes?
What if we get a scramble at lunchtime? What happens then?
We scramble. Scramble does not have any noise abatement problems. We go when we have to go. That is not a factor.
How often do you scramble?
There's 2 numbers. Basically, the one where we get scrambled and the one where we get airborne. We have a readiness state of 15 minutes. So sometimes it happens that we get scrambled, but within the 15 minutes or 10 to 11 minutes, most of the time, that's what we really need. Until we get airborne, the problem has resolved. So to answer your question, we get about 50 to 60 scrambles a year, and get about 12, 13 times airborne actually in the out of a scramble. Sometimes we are already airborne for a training mission, and that then get converted to a hot scramble. That can also happen. So we can say in general about once a month in general around the year. That's where we get a hot scramble where we really get to the task.
Is that usually down to a loss of radio contact?
That is 99% of the time that's the case. Yeah. The scrambles, most of the time is lost comm. It sounds pretty often, about 50 to 60 times. It sounds like all the German pilots cannot fly, not working the equipment. However, we have 3.2 million aircraft movement over German airspace. So 50 out of 3.2 million, I think all the civil pilots are pretty good. Sometimes it can be a technical problem. They switch to a frequency, call in and wait, then talk about something and forget about it. That happens. It can be a real technical problem. They turn and they can't do it anymore. Or they have real emergency, so they lose their navigation system or electronics and whatever. We had all those cases. We had an aircraft that we chased down actually to Stuttgart because they couldn't go to the clouds anymore because of loss of a navigation system. It was a small biplane, and we had to let it down. And but most of the time it's just I would say between the years of the pilots that they do have a problem there.
How many aircraft take off in this kind of case? One or two?
Not always two, unless we have a technical problem, obviously, but we always go as a two-ship. So one does the lead, that's looking into, and the other one is there for cover. Because you never know. When you get a scramble, normally as a pilot, you don't have any idea what is going on. You don't know if you have a German or an international or NATO head on. You just make your takeoff and you get a scramble screens, this direction, that altitude, and they fly in, and then, okay, your task is to intercept airliner, Radia, whatever it is, and then we fly to it, and then the task can be different. The task can be just shadow, so fly alongside him and see what he's doing, or have a look inside the aircraft, basically inside the cockpit, which is not that easy because you have to fly rather close to have a look inside the aircraft, and then they ask you stupid questions like, is there a terrorist attack going on inside the aircraft? You say, yeah, right, I can tell from the outside. Actually, you can look inside the cockpit rather good. You can see the pilot as he's looking outside. You exchange hand signals. For example, he's looking at you and say, I even have this guy. I don't tell you the airline now, but that happened. But yeah, they're looking over there and you see they talk to each other, doing something down there, look again. And most of the time then you hear over the radio, they're in contact with Karlsruhe or Munich or whatever again. But sometimes they still look at you, and then you start talking to them by telling them, okay, 1, 2, whatever, 3.5, go on that frequency. And then you can see actually the fingers, if they're presented when you have a white glove, or you put the green glove off and take your hand up, and you can see the visual signals. But you cannot see inside the cabin in the later one. You can see if somebody's running around, forward and backward, so if there would somebody be with a whatever head gun, machine gun running around, you probably would see it. But if somebody's making dirty jokes, you can't see that, obviously. Question there.
Is your QRA shared with another base in Germany? Is it Whitman or?
Yeah, I come to that. Yeah, it is actually. We have two QAs in Germany, one for the southern part and one for the northern part. I come to that in a second. Yeah, as I said, if it's a NATO task, so if there's a NATO problem, NATO is attacked or intervened by somebody from outside of NATO, then we keep the NATO head. And this is actually the case where NATO could order, okay, shoot him down, because it's swift attacking aircraft. Which is not likely, but I don't want to name other nations for, obviously. And then it could be, and then he's attacking and starting dropping bombs on Munich downtown, then we would actually shoot him down. If we get back transfer authority back to Germany, we are in this chain of command then. The German, Air Operations Commander, GETCOM, and then the Minister of Defense in person, by herself at the moment. If he would tell me, okay, shoot him down, I actually have to tell him no, because the highest court in Germany said you can't shoot down a civilian aircraft inside Germany if you're under national regulation, unless the whole parliament would come together and decide to do so. You can think about how likely that would be. It's a possibility, but it's rather unlikely. Maybe some of you saw the film Terror, obviously only the German-speaking one. It's a film, or actually it's a theater acting play, where there's a theoretical chance that terrorist aircraft is flying from northern Germany and wants to fly into the football stadium in southern Germany. And the question now inside the theater is, are you going to shoot him down? Legally, you can't. For ethical reasons, you might want to do that. But standing here as a representative, I have to tell you it's not legal, so we wouldn't do that. Okay. Yeah, our tasks. Obviously, we're flying and getting proficiency in combat readiness training to get ready to all those tasks. And obviously, we also, all of us, also the pilots, are first soldiers and then pilots. So all of us are trained also in standard military stuff, like walking, marching, shooting, and whatever. So everybody from us can be tasked to do another job. And actually that happens, that you go somewhere and join an army operation somewhere in Africa. It's not very likely, but it can happen, and it happens often enough. And because most of our people have multiple capabilities and whatever. And as I said, I was a tank driver. Once in a while I get a letter, are you available? No, it's 25 years ago, so I'm not available anymore. I don't know how to do that, but yeah, that happens. And we do all those training actually to support two main tasks. That is the QRA, 24/7, 50 minutes a day, even in the news times and during lunchtime. And also we are tasked to be able to put together force packages. Normally you would say, okay, it's 6 Eurofighters, 24/7 a day for 2 attack waves a day, something like this. And for example, at the moment we are part of NATO Response Force 2019. We have actually one package in play at the moment. It's only on 30 days notice to move, so we could have a couple of days to pack everything to go, so we're not first line. But next year in 2020, we are also again part of NATO Response Force, and there we are 7 days notice to move, so we are one of the first spearheads. If NATO would decide to do something, go somewhere, whatever, we would be ready, available for that. And we are, so we are trained for that, to do that. Cover your question, sir. We have 4 fighter wings in Germany with the Eurofighter. That is Takt Fighter Wing 74 in Neuburg, based here. We actually, with our QA, cover the southern part of Germany. It's not quite as strict as the line says, because when an aircraft is coming from, let's say, from here, flying to here, you would not scramble the QA equipment because you wouldn't reach them anymore. We send our guys against them, and vice versa. So the other fighter wing with QA task is Fighter Wing 71 in Richthofen, and also Fighter Wing 31 in Nürnberg, which is right in the center, can take over the task if it's necessary. For example, if we have maintenance on the runway for whatever couple of days, then they would take over and be able to do that. Not continuously, they don't have the resources for that, but they could do that for a couple of weeks or even a couple of months if necessary. Fighter Wing 73 could do the same thing, however their main task is the basic training. So if people convert onto Eurofighter, either from young guys or coming from another aircraft, the main training base is up here, and there's also where the fighter weapons school is, so where the high skills training is.
You don't have a name for your wing?
We don't have any more.
Oh, okay.
We had one, but the name was politically not correct, so to say. I mean, you probably know it was Mölders, but the German parliament decided, because he was part of some mission over Spain in World War II, that traditionally that wouldn't be good. By now, the historians checked everything and said, okay, it would be okay to still have the name, but it's too late. So in 2005, actually, we lost the name, and for the time being, we don't have a traditional name, as we call it, unfortunately. We're working on it, but yeah, it's not the political times for that in Germany at the time. And As I said, they are all coordinated out of one point, which is actually in Ulen, the Nationale Lage- und Führungszentrum Sicherheit im Luftraum. That's how busy German is. Actually, it's a headquarter where not only the armed forces is sitting. There's also the national police, the National Catastrophe Center, internal affairs, and so on. So this is combined force, because in Germany normally it's the way that protecting Germany and its people is part or is responsible of the police. However, the police do not have jets and cannot fly high and fast. They have helicopters, but for certain things like intercepting an airline in high altitude, you can't do it. So they asked the military for support, for help. And actually, as you can see, we have Bavaria, we have Baden-Württemberg, we have Hesse, and whatever. All the small countries have to do it by itself, which would take ages, and not in 15 minutes, obviously. So that's why they decided to make a contract. They have one representative of all the police forces there, and they do the official, we need help. Actually, just do it like that. So the regulations are all done. And then they asked NATO, they're sitting downstairs, NATO sits upstairs in the same building. They knock on the button, we need the QA! And they say, okay, transfer of authority now. So no signing paper or something, it goes like that. And the NATO is pressing a button, we go airborne, and they say, okay, your task is NATO or national, and then we know what we are supposed to do or what we legally can do. So the Ulen or Kalka, sometimes that's what the headquarters said, and it's actually coincident that they sit in the same building. A couple of years ago they sat in High Wycombe in Great Britain, but nowadays they sit in the same building, making things a lot easier. NATO integrated air defense center Europe, that's how it works. All those nations, this is only the northern part, the southern part would be on a different slide, which I don't have QAs. In Germany we have 2, in Great Britain they have 2, in Norway they only have 1, interesting enough. In Poland they have 3 bases where they can do it. And so on. Basically every NATO nation takes part of this QA deal protecting the NATO airspace. There are some nations that don't have armed forces, like Iceland for example. That's where the NATO is going in intervals, not regularly, but in intervals, to send the QA from there. And those 3, the Baltic nations, Lithuania, Latvia and Estonia, they have forces but they don't have fighter aircraft. That's where we take over the task in itself. And actually we, as our wing, we did that before, and I come to that. All those bases have permanent aircraft transfer authority to the NATO. They're all linked, they're highly responsive, 15 minutes regularly, sometimes even 10 or 5 minutes, and they can work cross-border. So if an aircraft is coming, whatever, from Poland and flying into the Netherlands, I can pick them up at Poland, protect them, and fly with them and shoot them down over the Netherlands. If it would be a NATO problem. If it's a national problem, I have to turn around at the border. We have obviously agreements, even with Switzerland and Austria. So they have their own QA, and I cannot, even if the Swiss ask me, shoot down an aircraft that's flying into Switzerland. But we regularly exercise that. So we take off the aircraft. Civilian airliner doesn't normally care about borders. If it's coming somewhere from the north, flying into Switzerland, we might protect an F-18 from Switzerland coming in Germany. On the right-hand side, we're on the left-hand side, and we fly across the border. Germans fly home, the Swiss control them furthermore. So there's cross-border operations going on. And that's what you normally see. Doesn't have to be an Indian aircraft, can be any aircraft. This is just a nice picture because it was close to sunset. We fly next to the aircraft to have a look. This is a very fortunate picture. You might download this at YouTube if you like. It actually says here on top of it, this is when you don't respond to ATC. So we didn't put it in there. I was very lucky. There was this airliner and another airliner flying behind it with a dash cam working. And you can see the first aircraft coming up here, joining, and the second aircraft being on the picture there. So it was good media training. We really loved the pictures because we didn't take them by ourselves. Somebody else did it. It was good advertisement for the armed forces because it worked out. That's how it works. When we do Baltic air policing, so if we do the NATO task, which we did in 2009, 14, 16, and 18, 2009 out of Cholet in Lithuania, and 2014, 16, and 18 out of Emary in Estonia. Actually, 2016, 18, I was the commander of the operation, so I was right there. Basically, it's the same task, but it's only the NATO task. So we're not tasked on the national front. So if somebody have a police terrorist problem inside Estonia or Lithuania, we wouldn't cover that. But if some aircraft would fly from somewhere over here from Russia, along this line into Russia again, down here at Kaliningrad, and would adhere to international regs and rules, we would intercept them. And we did. A couple of times. These are some of the pictures. Could be a transport aircraft, could be a VIP aircraft, could be a fighter aircraft, could be an atomic bomber. You never know. And it happens. Yes?
Have you seen a spike in activity over these years, or an increase in Russian intrusion?
It's an up and down, actually. There are certain times in the summer they fly more than in the winter, for I don't know, obvious reasons, but for different reasons. Interesting enough, during the Syria crisis, when most of the Russians were down in Syria, we had the old aircraft up here, and the most modern aircraft were down over Syria, obviously, testing, probably, or doing something like that. But also we had Su-30s, which is top of the line up there this year, or last year when we were up there. And we haven't seen those for a long time up there, but it happened last year, the atomic bombers there. And yeah, as you can see, most of those fighters are armed. Not always, but especially if they do an escort, they do escort of VIPs, and sometimes the number of fighters next to an aircraft tells us how many stars the guy have inside this aircraft. Or this aircraft, for example, it's called St. Petersburg. Yeah, then you know who's inside, at least if you know a little bit background information. It's the 4-star of the Western control zone in Russia. And
how did the Russian military pilots react when you intercept?
Very differently, depending on what you do with them. If they fly two fighters from A to B, coming close to them, sometimes we had one episode where the guy looked over, started waving, putting out his photograph, making pictures from us, and we did the same. We had one aircraft that's flying around giving us a finger. We had one aircraft that was going supersonic, slowing down to almost stopping in the air, but then supersonic again, slowing down. We had to take fly with it. So he didn't want to make it easy for us. It didn't happen to us, but it happened to the other nations, especially when they have to escort an aircraft. Obviously, the generals looking over them, looking at their own forces, so they are a little bit more tense. So if you fly very close to the escort aircraft and the Su-27 or whatever is showing up, you better leave him in space and have him his task. I mean, they are fighters. We don't talk to them regularly. We don't talk normally on radio frequency. It happened. Merry Christmas in one year was said over the radio, and obviously I said Merry Christmas back. I mean, no reason to be not polite. But other than that, there's no communication going on. But obviously, he comes up there, and the general wants to see him escorted, and we leave him escorted. And the Brits, in 1 year, they wanted to still take the pictures, and the Su-27 couldn't go really aggressive because he couldn't fulfill his task. So it was the British pilot at that time was being an idiot, or not being smart, because they have their task, we have our task, so everybody is doing it. But they never have been getting the radar onto us and locking missiles on us. That didn't happen so far. So they're not really aggressive. They just do their task, they do their thing. Sometimes they switch off their transponder, and a little bit later it comes on again, which is kind of annoying. I mean, the Su-27 doesn't have a transponder in Western standard, we know that. But all those aircraft, they have it. And all of a sudden, they go down. Actually, let's check it very quick. No, not important. And sometimes they go down, they become closer. I sometimes think they have press guys in there and say, do you want to see a German Eurofighter? Wait a second. transporter off. 20 minutes later, see, they're on. Put this one on. I'm not quite sure, but or they don't fly the flight plan. I don't know what the reason might be. If it's ignorance or whatever. What the hell? Wait 1 second. Hallo? Eigentlich nicht, du hast die Besuchergruppe. Ja, eine Tusche. Jo, alles klar. Nee, kann ich nicht. Sorry nicht. Ja, okay. Good job. Sorry. Wanted to know if they can do a relay takeoff for you. Well, I had to approve. Okay. Yeah, cover that, I think. Questions for that?
Sorry, excuse me.
Yeah, sure.
Did you use target pods as long-range airware identification on them days, the last deployment?
If we use tow decoys?
No, sorry, no, the targeting pod, the lightning, but
No, we didn't.
okay.
That's because we don't have so many in Germany. We needed them for training. The Spains used the targeting pod for long-range VID and worked pretty good. And the next time we do it again, we will do it. But unfortunately, the resources are not that high at the moment in German Air Force. Yeah.
Do you carry any light ammunition?
Yes, we do. Yes, of course. We need to be able to do something. We actually, on this mission, we have 2 IRIS-T and 2 AMRAAMs with us. So we could handle pretty much every aircraft that would be flying around there. And it's also a show of force. I mean, this picture is not taken from underneath, it's taken from the side. And that would be, if one of those aircraft would, which they don't regularly do, but if they would fly into NATO territory, would tell them, okay, fly away. If they don't move, we would show them we are armed. This is the first escalation phase, and then obviously we would try to push him away. And in worst case, the NATO commander could say, okay, before he enters a NATO airspace, they could shoot him down. Didn't happen so far. I don't think it's going to happen because those guys are not idiots. But you never know what politics doing in the future. But yeah, we are armed to as show of force and in case of to use it, obviously.
Do you fly with the gun on QRA?
Yes, always. It's not only a manly weapon, as we say. It's actually the only weapon that you cannot defend. If you shoot, I mean, you have to get close, obviously. But for all the missiles that we have, IR missiles, infrared missiles, or radar missiles, there are some measurements, flares, shaft, electronic equipment, which you could off a missile if everything works perfect. With a gun, if the ammunition is flying, unless you get out of the way, you will be hit. So that's always why the gun is in there. And that's why the German Air Force decided when we bought the Eurofighter, there has to be a gun in there.
Would you expect to get Meteor?
In 2 days? No, actually, we have the first Meteors already on stock. The newest software actually it's there, it's developed. It's just a matter of national clearances to get it onto the jet. We have already the software in stock to use it from the aircraft side. Actually, here on base, I would think we would have it by the end of next year. It's already there. The industry, Airbus developed it already. It's ready to go. It's a matter of national clearances, national clearance to get it on. But everything should be ready. It's just military politics preventing us to have it yet. Yeah.
When you fly a mix of tranche jets, or is it mainly 2 or 3?
We do, for not having enough. We fly tranche 1 and 2 mixed. Actually, I was flying tranche 1 yesterday night, and tomorrow morning I fly tranche 2. Doesn't really make a difference. Actually, sometimes if you're hasty, you get into the jet, you don't know what you have. And actually, we put the actual software that we have with a sticker up on there. There's actually two switches, I think it's two switches inside the cockpit that are different. Actually, it's a light switch and something else, so nothing you really recognize unless you're hectic in night and want to do a rotary switch, and the other one has a power back switch. And obviously in the software there are slight differences, but they're not very big, so it's not a big problem. The next steps, when we have the full air-to-surface integration, then a lot more will change inside the aircraft, and then we're not quite sure if you can switch like daily basis from one aircraft to the other. So we always hope that we have a pretty quick switch over from one software or from one hardware to the other, so we don't have to have parallel trained pilots and aircraft there. For maintenance, obviously the same thing. There are spare parts that can only be used in tranche 1, and spare parts that can only be used in tranche 2, and that doesn't help for a fleet if you're mixed, obviously.
Sorry.
Yeah, sure, go ahead.
Are you taking on the extra role in this youth, and or are you going to be purely air defense?
No, we started air to ground for about beginning of this year. So we have 6 or 7 pilots already trained on that, fully trained, and all the others getting there. I did my air to ground gun mission, nothing else so far, but only the commander, and so I'm not the first guy to do it. But yeah, we switch over all the pilots at the time as we speak.
What weapons?
The GBU-48, which is enhanced GBU-16, basically, with just a German signature on it. That's why it's called GBU-48.
And the gun straight?
Yeah, of course. Actually, you could fire even an IRC into the ground if you have a heat source, but that would be the last line of defense. Okay, here our task, air superiority, which is our main task, and it was the task for the last, since 2006 and before on the Phantom. So most of our guys are highly trained on air superiority, so which means gain and regain control of airspace, or an escort to protect own forces en route or airspaces and forces like that. And as we talked about, the attack role is just rolling in with air-to-ground position ammunition, which is the GBU-48, which is GPS and laser. And in case for close air support or something, it could be the gun as well. Just a couple of numbers for flying hours. Yeah, in the former old times, like on the Phantom, we have about 10,000 flying hours per year in 4 waves with 12, 10, 8 aircraft. So there was a lot of noise, talking about noise. And then came a small gap when we introduced Eurofighter, and we started getting ready with it, getting all the people trained, getting the first glitches out of the aircraft, only had about 1,000. But then really quick we came up to about 3,000, and unfortunately stagnating there for different reasons. Having too many Eurofighter bases in Germany with not enough aircraft, which was a local political issue. They had to put up the bases for whatever reason, and put up commanders, put up pilots, and we said, stop, we don't have enough aircraft yet and not enough maintainers, but they did it anyway. So that's why these numbers are stagnating this year. Yeah, 3,700 was planned. I think we will end up about 3,500 or something around that. But I'll talk about that later. It's not the numbers that count, it's the what you do with those missions. Come back.
What is the average number of flight hours per pilot in Europe?
Yeah, I come to that. The average is about 100, 110. However, that's guys like me flying only 70 hours. And that's guys being ready on the NATO response force that fly 180 up to 200 hours. So we have actually the guys that are assigned for NATO response force that fly the NATO minimum hours, which is 140 or more, plus the simulator. And I come to that. Actually, here it is. The annual flying hours is about 100, 110 in the last year, plus always 40 in the simulator. And that's a full combat vision simulator, which you actually can do your license on. So it is granted by the German Luftwaffe Bundesamt, which is the German, whatever. Safety agency that is responsible that you're able or have your license to fly in German airspace. That says, okay, the simulator is good enough to put flying hours back and put them on the simulator. And NATO already says if you want to be fully combat ready, you need 140 flying hours and 40 in the simulator a year, in total 180. That's a magic number we're always striving in. And this is one of the dome. Unfortunately, you're short here. Otherwise, we could have seen the simulator from the inside. Well, not my fault. Talk to your organization. That's where we do in-flight emergency training and check flights, which we did all the couple of last years. However, with this new simulator, we actually have two of those. Actually, one 360 degrees and one is 270 degrees, which is almost the same. They're linked to each other, and actually, in a couple of weeks, months, and years, we actually can link to all the simulators in the other bases as well. We're working on that. It's an IT security problem we're working on there. And you can fly complex technical scenarios. You can fly 100 against 100. It doesn't really matter, whatever the computer or what you want. How we do mission readiness training? We actually have databases, or we get databases from all the bases we are going to. So, for example, we go on an exercise at the time. Now we are in Airbus in Spain. We load the full missions in there, and you take off in Spain on the base. You taxi on the base. You have a tower controller talking within a Spanish accent, if the controller is good enough. You fly there, fly inside the airspace. You see everything, see the bridges, the rivers, and whatever, and come back. So the first time you are down there, you don't need an introduction flight. You've seen it. We can do this with all the missions where we get the data from. So if we have the data via Google, for example, could be enough. Google pictures or other means, Intel means. If we have those, and we have this, for example, for air policing, we get tasks out there. We have 30 Russians coming, and then you fly out there. It's only 2 Russians coming. You say, okay, I can do that because I've seen it before. This is really good task, and obviously the only thing you can't put in there is the G's. That is obviously the G forces that are on the body, but the instructors are trained to make you sweat anyway. They make you happen, make it happen, putting everything onto you, and you have good training. We fly at high value exercises. As I said, these 100 hours is not flying from A to B, so about 90 of those 100 hours are in a simulated combat in certain complexities. From ones basic fighter maneuvers, BFM, ACM, high exercises, high value exercises, local training flights, and we also have very good debriefing capabilities. I don't know if industry already told you, but can download all the data. We download all the videos. We can look at all the switches that have been used, or okay, why didn't you look at that guy? Yeah, I didn't see them. The radar didn't show. And we thought, okay, yeah, there it was, but you didn't see it. And we talk about why it didn't happen. Crew resource management or human factors training is also part of that. So we look deep in that, and most of the time the debriefing takes longer than the flight to make the people proficient for the next flight and to gain on their level.
Colonel, I know we're not talking tornadoes, but the Germans were training in the States, down at Holland. Was there any background as to why that didn't continue with the Typhoon down there?
Yeah, that also was a political thing. If you would have taken the Eurofighter down there, it would cost. They actually did a study, and they came up. It's about 280 million would it cost it, and then about 100 million a year. So 80 to start and 100 million a year. And they just said that's too expensive. And that was at the time where we didn't have the money. Now the money is coming in. Maybe today would do something different. Especially we have the tornado training in Germany now as well, and they struggle with the weather, obviously, and airspace in northern part of, or in this part of Germany. Also interoperational would be better. Nevertheless, then the Eurofighter again is a European product. and we don't want to show everything to the Americans. We keep secrets sometimes, and so this was also a thing there. With the Phantom, obviously it was easy. It was produced in the States, and everything was in there. And then the Phantom training was there. That's why they put the tornado training up there, and now it goes vice versa. So again, politics and money.
And how do you guys find the training here weather-wise? Like, is that a challenge for you?
Yeah, of course. Sometimes, some days you can't fly the mission you want to because there's thunderstorms or whatever out there. But actually, in former times when they had 360 days of sunshine and came in here, they had to be trained to fly in the weather. So you need additional training anyway. So you can start flying with the weather right away. And in former times we didn't fight. We had always an all-weather fighter, and it's still the Eurofighter obviously is also one, but you need to train differently inside IMC, inside the weather, and we do that. We do 4v4s by night in IMC, lights out, with everything, because data link, for example, helps there things we couldn't do before. We work different tactics where we don't have to see each other, we just see us on the displays, on the data link and stuff like that. So that's why the 4+ generation aircraft is doing its big job there. So and the first mindset was we can't do all the training here, but we can. It takes maybe 10-20% longer in the timeline because you have to skip some of the missions. But also, if you can't fly the full mission, you have a reduced mission, which still the young guy help and see something he hasn't seen before. Yeah, it's always good training. Yeah, full mission simulator, some of the pictures, not really nice. I mean, you can have everything down there to all the buildings, prominent buildings, so there could be an Eiffel Tower or whatever, so the real building that is there. You can fly down the Las Vegas Strip if you have to, whatever. And you put all other aircraft out there, they link each other, so the guy in the next simulator is doing its move, you see it right away. So technically wise, it's no problem, and they put it up there. And also in the simulator, we have all the original hardware in there. So even sometimes technicians say, can you check this out in the simulator before doing the aircraft? And you do, or you do a diagnosis in there. We see sometimes saying, can you capture that in the simulator, because the same instruments in there. And sometimes that's helping out, especially in the beginning of the Eurofighter, when you had more emergency, where you couldn't figure out what the problem was, and you sit down the simulator and say, that's the reason, fix it that way, or the other way.
Do you guys find a challenge between the different tranche, the tranches of the Eurofighter?
No, as I said before, until the tranches we have so far, you need sometimes briefing, sometimes a flight, sometimes a simulator for the next version, but the steps are further small, and most of the times the steps are inside menus or features. So flying-wise, it doesn't make a difference anyway. And flying the Eurofighter is a piece of cake. I mean, flew the Phantom and the MiG-29 before, where you actually flew with your butt, so to speak, and you had to fly the aircraft in here. You do the flying thing. If you would sit in a simulator, you could start, and probably with some teaching of mine, you could land the aircraft right away. It has to be. It's a single-seat fighter, and you want to be a lethal combat platform. So flying has to be set in nature. That doesn't really matter. If you go into BFM, it still counts who's the better pilot. But for standard tasks, flying is easy, actually. This is some of the exercises we went to: Frisian flag, air policing, as I said, Arctic challenge. I don't know if you heard about it, an exercise in Norway. 100 kilometers long and 400 kilometers wide, which is the country, pretty much. And there's nobody living there. You can fly supersonic, jet, flare, whatever. And sometimes even in the United States, over the desert of Nellis and north of that, in the container. So Area 51 doesn't know the container. There are more restrictions than have been in Sweden and Norway up there. So it was really good. And also the players, we had American fighters, and there didn't have the F-35. That was a shame, but everything else was there. That is at the market at the moment. Rafales and Gripens, obviously, and F-15s, F-18s, all there. So it was a really good exercise. A lot to do. And we always joined the technical leadership program. At the moment, they started on Monday, actually. We were down in Spain there training again, air to service and air to air. That training. Yeah, the Eurofighter in itself, already mentioned it already, for pilot and can compare to other aircraft. It's easy to fly. Greatest thing is the engines, or are the engines. So much power I haven't been seen before. You never have enough power, but sometimes in Eurofighter you have. Last night I was so close to flying supersonic all the time because I just looked outside, tried to find somebody, and Bitch and Betty, as we call it, started transonic, which is you going supersonic in a second. Put up because the aircraft is running away all the time. That is really cool. It's maneuverable, very good, then you only, especially as an old people, you have to get used to the electronic cockpit, because I was flying analog aircraft before, but I still can manage. Still kick some ass if I have to. Air-to-air refueling on German and international fighters, getting more and more clearances. We try to get rid of all the clearance shit. I mean, obviously you need the technical clearance, but we as German pilot, I need a clearance for the MRT, the Airbus. I need a clearance for the A330M. I need a clearance for the Voyager and whatever. They say, what the hell? It's a basket. I don't care what aircraft is pulling the basket. I just need to fly there. And somebody obviously has to say before, okay, there's not too much fuel coming out to rupture my system. Somebody has to do that, of course. But other than that, I mean, it's not easy. Air-to-air refueling is one of the tougher things as a pilot, skill-wise, because he's flying 280, I fly 282. If I fly 285, I break it. If I fly 281, the contact will not come together, so 282 would be the perfect speed, which is about 500 kilometers an hour, and moving left, right, up, down. It's tough, but nevertheless, it's just a basket and you have to hit it. It's about 60 or 80 centimeters, depending on the type. Sounds good, but yeah.
So how many of your pilots are air-to-air qualified?
All the ones.
All of them?
Yeah.
Is that the case in all the types doing tactical type?
Yeah, I mean, sometimes obviously if the tanker is not coming off enough, you run out of currency. Actually, day air-to-air refueling is half a year, night is 12 months. So if you haven't been a long time on the tanker, you need an instructor to fly with you to get the current again. But in general, everybody gets the initial qualification right in their conversion training, and then you keep up the qualification. There was a certain time, especially when the A310 was down in Jordania, or Turkey before, and then in Jordania, we didn't have enough tankers up here, and then there were not enough clearances for all the international tankers, so we had a time when all the currencies could be held up at level. As I speak right now, maybe of the 40 pilots, 40 pilots, maybe 5 are not current at the moment, but they have been current, they could be current within a couple of days.
How many sources do they have to fly the AAR qualifier? One. Okay.
Yeah, it's difficult, but you either can do it or you cannot do it. So if you cannot do it, you get out of the jet anyway.
And so every time you fly behind an A400, you have to be qualified to fly behind an A400, or get AAR qualified and fly behind it?
No, for the initial qualification. For the first time I go on a different type of tanker, I need an instructor either in the double seat in the same cockpit, or at least in the flight, depending on whatever. It's completely different, like when I flew on the Hercules, on the Spanish Hercules, which was flying slower, and everything looked a little bit different than the instructor in the aircraft. Actually getting on the A400M, I only need an instructor in flight. So somewhere inside the foreship there has to be an instructor that's looking over there and can't do anything anyway. Even if he's sitting in the back seat, he needs to be transfer with a button. That's always too late anyway if you see something, but he can start screaming. Get away, stop, up, down, whatever, and you can do it and then afterwards. Actually, there's obviously you know from the Eurofighter we don't have a pitot boom anymore. We have these RDTs, these vanes underneath the body, and they're basically responsible for all the avionic information the aircraft is getting. So actually, if you lose one of those, you have a shrink down envelope. not actually, not flying-wise, but the computer says it has to be shrink down. If you lose 2, basically says, okay, fucking fly home. Because if you only have 1, that is the last one. If that goes out, well, the aircraft would officially not be able to fly anymore. Luckily, we haven't seen a lot of crashes with the Eurofighter, but we had this one incident where we had the collision with the Learjet, like 5 or 6 years ago. And it hit the aircraft in the back, and there was severe damage inside the aircraft. And if you would ask an engineer, he would say, okay, the Eurofighter cannot fly anymore because he doesn't know the data. For example, if the aircraft loses a missile, doesn't know the missile is there anymore for whatever, the contact is broken, but it says, okay, major emergency, you have to fly now, I don't know what I'm doing. And as a pilot, the first time I was flying inside a fly-by-wire aircraft, I was like, okay, what the heck is going on? I do something, does the aircraft do what I want? Yes, the aircraft does do what I want. And it always does. And even if you hit one of the RDTs, yeah, all the lights go on, the Christmas tree is burning, but actually the aircraft is flying just fine. No problem there. But yeah, those, I actually came to that already. Those RDTs, so if you hit the air fueling probe comes out here on the right hand side, it actually is covered, but comes out if you hit a switch. And if you hit the basket, it will go underneath the nose. It can rip off 1, 2, 3, or even 4 of those. And that is where it's getting dangerous. And obviously everything didn't go down the intake, which is a problem, or even you lose avionic information, which is bad. So if it goes up to the right, up on top of it, it doesn't matter. If it goes down here, that's not very good. Yeah, for this one, officially the aircraft is night and all weather capable, and yeah, this is not a study or something. It's what really happened. Obviously, night flying, we have some formation lights if you need them, and you can fly by night. We have NVGs. By now, we have NVGs because the final helmet that we want to have is not there yet. It's a British system, so it's not Airbus. It's British. The helmet is not coming, or not in the quality we like it. And also, these are pictures from wintertime air policing. Yeah, officially it can taxi up to 20 centimeters of snow. I didn't want to try that because, yeah, the wheels are very small, and also they're very close together, sidewise and forward back. So even if sometimes very slippery and you go into turn fast, it started like going on the side, or the anti-skid system is working. But if you make it easy, which you should do on snow and ice anyway, even with the car, they can work it. And temperature-wise, obviously if you park it outside, then you have a problem. But if you park it sheltered, then just taxi out to the runway during ice and snow, it's not a problem. And clouds, yeah, thunderstorm, you don't want to hit a lightning your aircraft. It's an electronic aircraft. A lot of electronics in there, you don't want that. But other than that, it flies just fine in all kinds of weather. Turbulences doesn't matter at all, for example.
Carl, in that last picture in the previous slide.
This one?
No.
Oh, the next one. That actually will be the next one.
Is it the pirate IRST that is on the Typhoon? And I don't see it on that one, but I don't know how.
Not the Germans. Not the Germans. They decided we don't need that.
Oh, okay.
Now, obviously, but they didn't ask me. But they can't ask me all the time. But now we want it, which technically wise is not a problem. But obviously, we were out of the chain of constructing it and out of the development costs of that. So if we want it, we don't even only have to buy the thing, we also share the development costs. So that's a matter of, I would say, time. It's on the agenda, not high on the priority list. It's on the agenda for German Air Force to have it as well. But at the moment, only the other ones have it. Yeah.
And you said that it's not high on the agenda. What would be the high ones on the agenda for the next wish list?
Yeah, the further work is coming anyway. That's already signed. Yeah, it's small things actually. Obviously, E-scan radar, that is the next big step. More weapons integration would be good. I mean, Germans flying GBU-48, the Brits fly Payplay aircraft, Payplay missile. I don't know why. We should fly all the same, so we would be able to share. But that's that's politics. It has nothing to do with the industry or what they say we can do everything. Cannot do everything, but they say they can do everything if you pay for it. And then now we have to decide what is highest priority. E-scan is coming further or later. Which type of radar, the German or the British version, we will see, depending what is going along left and right. The Brits, for example, go for the radar 2. I think it's the last name we had, because they fly together with F-35. We said, okay, we have the Siege Tornado, but not for very long. Now the question is, what's coming next? Do we buy a Growler, F-18, or do we buy F-35? And then obviously things will change, because we have to cover the whole spectrum. At least at the moment, all nations go for covering the full spectrum by themselves. And so we see what is be on the highest list of priority. Obviously, integration of Meteor, which technique-wise is done. Me as a pilot, I want to have it as soon as possible. And because obviously we have the AMRAAM 120 Bravo, which is really short stick in comparison to other nations. And we don't have too many of them. Because we leased them. Whoever thought about the idea of leasing a missile, but I shot it. Can I get a new one? No, we'll see. Yeah, but the thing, as I said again, it's a matter of bringing it in. And then, yeah, some software bugs or features, actually not bugs, but features, better integration of data link. For example, now at the time I can see if my wingman is shooting on somebody, but I cannot see if he's targeted on somebody before he's shooting. So there's just small things as the pilot is wishing. I said, I want to see if he's locked on that guy, so I know I don't have to target him. Link-wise, it's no problem. The SUTS, the System Integration Unit in München said they developed this like 10 or 15 years ago. I said, here it is. I just need to put it into the aircraft. Then the national chain, the foreign national chain. Not all nations want the same. It's cheaper if all nations want the same thing. So those are the things. Then yeah, there are nice things like the leading edge strakes that we're getting. So high, more AOA. You can never have enough AOA, but. Yeah, there are numbers that are in the books that you want to have. For example, you see the F-35. I mean, ugly aircraft, but it can fly down to 60 knots and 60 alphas, 60 AOA. Yeah, and I said, okay, I'll go to whatever, 24, 28 AOA, and I would rather have the strakes than go for 35 or whatever, because it's just cool. But then again, a couple of weeks ago, F-35 were coming down here from Spangdahlem. They were on tour and asked, we want to fly against you. We said, okay, I'm flying against a stealth aircraft. That's not going to be funny. He said, no, we just want to fly dogfight. So visual fights. I said, okay, this is going to be interesting. And they did all funky maneuvers with their 60 knots and 60 AOA, but I got them anyway. So it's how you use the machine, taking the advantage. I mean, you probably heard the name of the square or the cube, as sometimes the F-35 is called. You can see it all the time in all weather situations from all aspects. You think it's a small aircraft, it is. It's smaller than a Eurofighter by just size comparison, but you see it anyway because it's a cube. You can see it from our aspect. It's pretty dark. It's a cube. Which I think is funny because it was easy to see against clouds, against the blue sky, actually against the ground. And they do the funky move, but after the funky move, they do nothing else. They fly like a piano, just down. So you just go up, turn around, wait for 10 seconds, and then you gun him. So yeah, you want a lot of things on the aircraft, but what makes sense? And then again, what makes sense for the German Air Force? Not what I want, but what do the politics in Germany want from us to be done? And I said, if you want to have us a recce mission, get us the recce pod. We just integrated it by a fast lane or fast track integration. They say, okay, you want a strike aircraft? Well, do the things. And so it's not, some things the pilot wants and some things politics wants, and that all has to come together and has to be affordable. Obviously, technically wise, you can, as I said, almost do everything. So somebody has to say it, mention it, name it, and go for it. Yeah, this is how the GB48, now the training version, but they went up to Sweden, dropped them down with the weather designated port in here. Yeah, it would be cool if it wouldn't use a station, but would be integrated in the aircraft. That obviously is something that will not happen very soon. Could be done maybe somewhere, sometime, or at least put it maybe on this station here, so lose one AMRAAM, put the pod up there, that would be a possibility. Although, a tank here is good. However, as you can see on most of the pictures, we have the 2-tank configuration. 2 tanks doesn't have a lot of drag. If you fly a single tank or 3-tank, the drag goes up tremendously. I mean, there's 1,000 liters in here, it's about 20 minutes. However, if 20 minutes on the, if you have the 1,000 liters on the satellite tank, it's only about 10 minutes because the drag goes up so high. So, here you go. That's why there's the possibility to go for conformal tanks, which Germany again decided not to do, and the Brits did. So we see what's going to happen with that. Yeah, and then actually you could carry 6 AMRAAMs or Meteors or whatever, 2 IRST, 4 GU-48, and the pod in the center and 2 weapons, which is kind of formidable. There are aircraft with more weapons, but there are also aircraft with less weapons from there. Okay, this actually is a British picture. Nevertheless, I just wanted to put it up. Yes, we can fly more aircraft than sometimes you read in the media. Yeah, we're not having the many aircraft we would like to have, and sometimes you start complaining about readiness state, 50%, 60%, or whatever. One nation does it better than another, but it's always with statistics. It's the same. You have to look in it in detail. Sometimes an aircraft is ready when it's ready within 24 hours, but if I want to fly it now, it's not ready. But on statistics says it's ready. It's like some nations do it. Actually, we are pretty honest with the numbers, and sometimes you look at the numbers, say, okay, 50% or maybe 60% of the aircraft are clear, but those are clear. They're ready to go. They would be ready to go into, maybe not in war, but they're good for most of the missions we want to fly. And I wanted just to put the picture out. As I said, it's not our picture. Actually, need a copyright on that. But we could put information up like that anytime, which is kind of cool. Yeah, I don't go into the numbers. You heard them probably at Munching, that there's a full development aircraft, and that all the parts coming from different nations, and obviously the engines coming from Germany is the best thing on the aircraft. So I'll talk a little bit about that actually in a couple of minutes. I need to come to an end here. Infrastructure, that is the airfield. Actually, it's the smallest NATO airfield in Europe. And you can see why, because it has a runway and the infrastructure. And that's it. Here's the QA, 4 aircraft there, 2 in the center, the main aircraft and the spare aircraft on the outside, pilot sitting in the center, ready to run out to the aircraft. And all the other aircraft are parked here and on the other side. And we are here sitting right in the center in this building. And here's the town of Neuburg and Marienheim and Hart and Ballersdorf and Seensan. These are all the cities where the mayors are now sitting down there. Okay. This is seen from another perspective, the new runway. Here again, the building we're in. This is what we call our fighter town. Here's the squadron, actually 2 squadrons in one building. The tower, the fire brigade. My headquarters actually, and the simulator, all within walking distance. Very easy to work together there. And the maintenance basically in this one, and then the aircraft park in here. And you can see we still have hardened shelters. Not what we thought in the last 20 years we needed them. Now we are happy to have them. Don't know what happened, but they're all just there from older times. From actually they were built for the Starfighter, they worked for the Phantom, and with a couple of new cables, computers, and stuff like that, they are still working for the Eurofighter, and pretty good actually. Yeah, to sum it up, we were the first Eurofighter equipped wing. We have the QA 24/7. Operations are primary task, and daily routines come in addition to that. We are one of 2 QA bases. We have 1 wing and 2 airfields, as I said. And we're very, very close regional ties. This is a talk from our mayor. We said the fighter wing belongs to Neuburg, like the Danube, that's a river, and the castle of Neuburg. So very much integrated here and happy to be there. And all the other questions we talk about down there, unless it's a really quick one, because there will be takeoff in like 5 minutes. I think you don't want to miss that.
Bom, pessoal, a gente está aqui na ala 74 da Luftwaffe. Agora a gente vai assistir uma demonstração da decolagem aqui do Eurofighter numa simulação de scramble, de interceptação, hein? Aqui atrás da gente, ó, os hangares onde os caças ficam em prontidão para decolagem.